Next speaker is a data engineer. She's also a data analytics instructor. She has 5 years of data experience in nonprofits, educational technology, and password security. She's also an operational analytics data champion, ready to share her data knowledge with the community. She wants to share the steps and decisions that shaped her brilliant data professional career. In her talk, Trailblazing Your Way to Success, daring to take your own path and carve out a life of purpose and passion. When she isn't sharing her love for data, you can find her hiking or sipping a cup of coffee. Interesting. Please welcome Ella Wherritt.
Okay, thank you for coming along to this event today. Super excited to be one of your presenters. So, my name is Ella Wherritt. Recently got married, so I go also by Ella Runciman, so either is fine. You can just call me Ella. And I'm going to be sharing how I found myself on the path I'm on today. And it's been largely driven by a combination of things: passion, purpose, and the occasional lapse of judgment. And I will be diving into that very shortly. So I'd like to thank Google Developers Cloud, Edmonton, for organizing this event and inviting me to speak today. All right, let's get started. Okay, so picture this. I am a big Golden Girls fan, so I had to put this image in. But picturing this back in 2016, this is when I'm going to be talking about when I started my path. And I was just wrapping up a degree in botany and ecology at the University of Queensland back in Australia and trying to decide what to do next. I knew the general life advice manual: get a well-paying job or continue to do study and be an adult who didn't just have wine in the fridge. So, this the bare minimum, really. Unfortunately, this plan, so that's the plan that every parent wants from you. And I mean, it's a pretty good, solid plan. I recommend maybe following that and not what I did. So this plan got off track pretty quickly. There were a few things preceding and immediately after graduation that some or many of you would label atypical. So towards the end of my undergraduate studies, I applied to volunteer as an English teacher in Poland. Teaching was and continues to be an interest of mine. And at the time, I was interested in pursuing a master's in education. And before investing in such an endeavor, I thought teaching in Poland seemed like an appropriate trial run. So that's kind of where the logic was coming on from there. And unfortunately, I became quite ill during my stay and developed an eating disorder that took control of my life. And this ultimately shortened this volunteer gig in Poland and brought me to an eating disorder treatment program in Australia. And then while at the program, I was in the final stages of interviewing for a well-paid job with a department in the Australian government, and stepped down at the final stage because I was infatuated with a Canadian and considered moving here to Edmonton. So I had met him on a student exchange in Edmonton a few years prior, and that was history. So the thought of uprooting my life for a man initially bothered me greatly. I'm going to emphasize this a lot. It bothered me greatly, as I consider myself a feminist and career-oriented. And this was a very difficult choice, as the people around me voiced the same thing, based on the concerns of some of this, and wanted a very different career path for me. And it was tempting to stay in Australia. I knew what I had, and I could very easily continue living just like that. But I knew I would regret not giving this relationship a chance, and in that moment, that mattered more to me than any stable government job. That's the 21-year-old brain speaking. So could this be the worst decision of my life? Perhaps, but there are no guarantees in life. And I had to believe in myself that everything would work out. And at the very least, it would be a great story. So I left Australia with no job, no contacts, and no savings. And suffice to say, I had no plan. Every parent's nightmare. And it was not easy. Despite the gorgeous view, this is what I was taking. This is a picture I actually took when I was landing into, flying over the Rockies on my way to Edmonton, so real big. But it wasn't easy. Despite the gorgeous views, it was difficult to land a job. My degree in botany and ecology did not bring many employment prospects out here in Edmonton, funnily enough. And there was one sector, though, that I was seeing jobs in, data analytics. And I was a statistics tutor back in the day at university and had dealt with a lot of data as part of my degree, so I decided to pivot in my job search. This still brought challenges. Having a work visa tends to filter you out from applications as companies are worried about having to sponsor you or that you might be a flight risk. All valid points, particularly the flight risk part. The classic problem of companies who are looking for formal work experience, but you need a job to get such experience. So that's what all that images there are trying to reflect. As for those that are job searching, this may resonate with you. So I got a break with a non-profit, and it was a great first step. The company's mission resonated with me, and some of the people became great mentors of mine. Outside of work, I volunteered for many different initiatives. Volunteering strengthened my ties to the community, exposed me to people with similar interests, and taught me new things about myself. And as an example, while volunteering for Canada Learning Code, I rediscovered a love for coding. This new love motivated me to attend events like the IWD Datathon, despite feeling completely out of my depth. At these events, self-doubt would creep in, and it would question whether I was worthy of being there. The voice would tell me I'm an imposter and that everyone else would see me as an imposter. That voice would do everything it could to hold me back from seizing opportunities. Thankfully, through attending these events, I met some of you and realized that we often have these feelings ourselves. And it was these honest discussions at Canada Learning Code that inspired me to keep going, keep fighting the negative thoughts, and to continue challenging myself. So I found myself getting comfortable in my job. I was ready for a challenge, and I was channeling the encouragement I got from the awesome ladies at CLC to find my next opportunity. All right, now, not everyone is going to see your value. I once had a director, not too far away from here actually, look at my resume in an interview and tell me, what the expletive are you doing? It was a good lesson that not everyone will be able to see your transferable skills, but trust me, you'll want to work for a place that does see your value. Not everyone is going to understand your path, and you may encounter a few critics on the way, haters are going to hate, but it is your path, not theirs. I then landed a job as a data analyst with a startup before COVID arrived. COVID, we've been there. Startups are a great place to learn, as you will often be required to wear many hats, and you will have great exposure to the whole business compared to larger entities. Edmonton has a thriving startup scene, and for the job seekers in the room, I encourage you to consider startups in your job search. While creating your own path, it is also to remember you are not your job. I actively threw myself in opportunities that interested and challenged me. Before this, I had been volunteering for a wide variety of events, but I was now being more intentional with my time. I had a better idea of what causes mattered most to me, and where I felt my contributions could be used for the common good. I started to volunteer as an instructor for Canada Learning Code. I got a team together for the ATP Open Finance Hackathon. We were listed as a finalist and won Best Pitch. This felt pretty incredible as we had attended the event a year before and we had participated in a similar event and were completely lost. So it's a reminder that progress doesn't happen overnight and you have to work at it. And as we all know, COVID forced many businesses to adopt a work from home model. And as you may have figured it out by now, I like to keep busy. So when COVID shut things down, I wasn't going to let that stop me from volunteering. So when people were losing their jobs and being isolated at home, providing virtual coding workshops was more important than ever. The Edmonton chapter for Canada Learning Code delivered a record of 45 virtual workshops during COVID. I was frequently asked why I felt the need to run 45 workshops in my free time. It comes back to passion and purpose. It did not feel like a chore because I was passionate about it. I was filled with joy when I saw people get excited about a new coding language. And I loved meeting volunteers and participants from across the country, which was a real treat when the world was locked down. Okay, helped you go. Okay, facilitating these events brought me purpose when COVID made the world feel chaotic and scary. All right, let's not sugarcoat it. It's not all events go as planned. And in early 2021, I tried running an event, Cup of Code, to encourage the Edmonton community to code, and they would receive a free coffee from a local cafe. Sounds pretty cool. The constant COVID closures, though, had other plans for us, and that's just how it goes. And I learned some valuable lessons from this and realized we had to operate in a virtual world just a little bit longer. In the virtual bubble, I kept applying myself to opportunities. I did a live virtual talk for Startup Edmonton Week, which was absolutely terrifying. You would think that public speaking in front of a screen would be less daunting, but the downside is that we can't see your lovely faces and gauge your reactions. I also completed the Machine Learning Technician Certificate and started mentoring for Juno College. The year 2022 came around and I found myself craving the next challenge. I had grown the data team at the company I was working at and I was moving towards a manager role. But something didn't feel right. I was getting too comfortable and I realized management was just not for me. I was going along with something that just was not in line with my values. One of the upsides of increased work experience is that you tick more boxes and you will have more options when you're job searching. Another company offered me the role of a data engineer. While I was becoming more technical in my current role, this role was very different to what I had been doing. So the same old fears of not being good enough filled my mind and almost made me want to pass on this fantastic opportunity. Thankfully, I ended up taking the role and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I've been in the role a year now and it has been a steep learning curve and I learn something new every day. I try to share my experiences and encourage others to consider a career in data engineering. Right now, I'm the only woman on the data engineering team, and this is not atypical. I would like to see that change, and maybe you can help me. I'm also now a data analytics instructor for Juno College, and I still love to teach. So while I've talked a lot about work and volunteering, your path is not strictly about those two things. I now have a dog named Fox, she's amazing, and I got married with the Canadian I mentioned earlier in the talk. So you can say my parents are relieved. All right. And there were definitely moments where I was tempted to go back and choose the easier, safer option. I rewatched The Greatest Showman the other day, and there's this line, "Comfort is the enemy of progress." Being comfortable is only going to get you so far. Be curious, leave room for spontaneity, and let your passion and purpose help you create your path. There are no shortage of events in Edmonton, so if you're trying to figure out your passion, you should be covered. Edmonton Unlimited hosts many incredible tech events, and if you're looking for non-tech content, Meetup has a wide array of events for everybody, so you have no excuses. In the age of influencers, follow people whose content excites you. COVID normalized virtual events, so you can engage with people who have similar passions very easily. Look for opportunities, as they are not always going to magically appear in front of you, though that would be nice. Now, never in a million years did I think my passion was going to be teaching coding and coding itself. And as you've heard, I only discovered it by putting myself out there, having new experiences, and identifying the things in my life that motivate and excite me. I would not change anything about my path, and I am looking forward to what is ahead. You should be excited about your path too. And if you're not, it might be time to assess your passions and purpose. We can default to living a path for someone, but if that's not aligned with what you want, you're not going to be happy. So enjoy your path and make it yours. Thank you for having me.